Okay, this is setting up your own WebSDR with OpenWebRX. So what is a WebSDR? For those of you, again, there's some new people here and may not know what a WebSDR is. It's a software-defined radio that's interfaced to a home network and or the internet and is accessible through a web browser. So you can keep it private for use only inside your own premises, or you can also open it up for the public to have access to it as well, if you want worldwide. There are pros and cons to both of those things. Why would you set up a WebSDR? Well, here's a couple of reasons I figured out. You want to monitor the airwaves through a browser while away from your radio station, so you don't have to be sitting in front of your very expensive radio, have it turned on, for a long time if you want to be monitoring, for a period. And you could do it at home, somewhere else in your house, not necessarily inside your ham shack, or you could do it when you're away from home and you want to listen to the radio through your station. WebSDRs usually consume less power than most transceivers. And that is very true for the one that I set up, because what I'm using is an SDR play, and it's plugged into an SDR play, by the way. I'll show you one here. This is the SDR play. They sell these at Ham Radio Outlet. Go for about $100. And this thing will tune from 100 kilohertz up to 2 gigahertz. And this is actually much better than the dongle, because it's got all of the filters in there for it's much higher quality. When you get what you pay for, it's $100, but it's worth it. And it's connected to a computer, of course. The computer I use is a Raspberry Pi. A Raspberry Pi is a single board computer about the size of a deck of cards. And it only draws like about 5 watts of power. So you're using a station that's going to be operating with a minimal amount of electrical consumption compared to a transceiver. And of course, it's a lot less expensive than your transceiver. And you're not going to be burning out your transceiver by leaving it on 24 hours a day if you wanted to listen that long. Also, you have an antenna at your house, which you use most of the time only when you're transmitting. And when you're not transmitting, it's there doing nothing. Well, now you can have it hooked up to a receiver, so it's accessible and monitoring the airwaves as long as you want. So, well, that's a good point. You should not be transmitting into the same antenna that you're receiving on, because you can blow out the front end of the receiver. If you have a separate receive antenna from your transmit antenna, usually there's not a problem if you're transmitting low power. But if you do anything like 100 watts or more, and the antennas are close enough to each other, you can couple enough power into the front end of your SDR to blow it. So you need to be careful about that. You can also share your WebSDR with others if you'd like. That's one thing I've decided to do. I have my WebSDR on at home right now, and it's accessible through the internet. And I'm going to give a demonstration of it in a moment here. There's a link that I'm going to share with all of you, so you can try it at home if you want, or even here if you have a cell phone with a browser. Yeah, a lot of you may be familiar with this. This is the Half Moon Bay WebSDR, kfsdr.com. A lot of us use these. There's another one over in northern Utah, which is very popular to be used. And it's one that we sometimes use when we want to hear how our signal is getting out. We can be transmitting HF and want to see if we're being heard over there. We can tune ourselves in and see what the signal strength is. It gives an idea what the propagation is at Half Moon Bay. The same way for the SDRs elsewhere, like northern Utah. And some of these are located all around the world. So you can see where you're being heard anywhere in the world this way. This particular software was written by a gentleman, I believe a Dutchman. I don't remember what it's called particularly, but if you request, he will send you a copy of the software and you can set it up. And it works with some specific types of receivers. And it's got some specific types of controls that are available on here. So this is one of the first WebSDRs that I was aware of that was on the internet. Now, OpenWebRX is a separate, different software. It was actually a project of a Hungarian student named Andras Retzler, HA7ILM, and he created this for the RTL SDRs as his thesis for his Bachelor of Science degree. So he did this as a student. And when he finished and got his degree, he worked on it for a while and decided he wasn't going to work on it anymore, but he gave it freely for anybody to use. So volunteers have, programmers have picked it up and continue with its development, and they're adding more and more features to it all the time. It can accommodate multiple users, so you can have 20 users or more at the same time, logged into your receiver and tuning around and listening to different parts of the band you're on. You need a computer for it, an SDR, and network access. That's all you need. The computer could be a Raspberry 3, a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4, or a PC running Linux. Or you can have like a Windows or a Mac computer running VirtualBox and have the Linux running in there, and then you're going to have the software running on that. So the right now it's set up with drivers for RTL SDR dongles, the AirSpy, and the SDR Play, and it'll work with most internet browsers. Kiwi SDR, you might be familiar with also, is another piece of hardware that uses OpenWebRX. So if you've ever gone onto a Kiwi SDR online, you'll be familiar with OpenWebRX because it's pretty much the same thing. The modes you can receive with that are AM, FM, single sideband, CW, FreeDV, FT8, JT65, PSK31, packet, and more. And there's a new branch of this program that's called OpenWebRX Plus that adds a CW decoder, a radio teletype, DMR, D-Star, Yaesu System Fusion, SSTV, fax, and more. I mean, it's like it receives almost everything and decodes it for you. And it's free. Isn't that neat? There is a website called receiverbook.de, which is a free directory service listing of online SDR receivers. Those who have these, who have decided to share them with the rest of the world. That there's pros and cons to that. If you want to do that, you want like do a public service for all the world to use your receiver, that's fine. There is a problem though, because if you publicize in something like that, you're making your receiver accessible for perhaps some bad actors as well. And I have to say that once I did publish my Kiwi SDR in one of these directories, and I found that one of the regular users that was logging into the Kiwi SDR was from China, the People's Republic of China, and they were listening to Beale Air Force Base military comms. And it's kind of like, espionage, using my receiver to listen on to a military comms, and I decided I didn't want to have that continue, so I took it off that. No, the FBI did not. But I did. I notified them. I didn't notify the FBI, but I notified the military that they were doing this sort of thing, and I'm sure they were aware that that's just been going on. So I just didn't want to collaborate in this. So you can have your WebSDR online, accessible for those that you want to share it with, and all you would have to do is give the link to the people you want to share it with, like I've done. I'm doing it here now with the club. So how do you install it? I'm not going to, yes? Yeah, you can password. Okay, the question was, can you password protect? The Kiwi SDR can be password protected, and that's what I've done now with my Kiwi SDR. The OpenWebRX, the way you would install it is you go to the website, which is openwebrx.de, and then you click on this menu button here, and then it'll direct you to any of the repositories, the Debian, Ubuntu, Docker images, and the Raspberry Pi images, and they even have the source code there. It's all open source. I'm not going to go into detail about actually installing this, but because there's a lot of tutorials online and YouTube videos that explain you how to do that. But I'm going to show you when you actually run it, this is what you're going to see. What you do is you go to your browser, any browser, and then you put in the URL of your WebSDR. You can have a URL in your house on your local area network. It'd be 192.168.0. You can find out what that is by looking in your router, and it brings up this this page here, and you have all your controls here. Here you have the where you select the modes. Here is where you select the band, and there you actually type in the frequency you want to look at. Here you have your volume control, your squelch control. These are buttons to adjust the contrast and the brightness of the waterfall. And these are for zooming in and zooming out. This is for opening up to see the entire band segment. And this is for zooming in very close. And then you can actually record the audio that you're listening to by clicking the record button. In this case, it's tuned to the FT8 frequency. You can see it's on digital and it's FT8. So what it's doing is it's decoding all of these FT8 signals coming through. And it's the kind of, that's just an example of what you see. If you have any questions about OpenWebRX, there is a discussion group on groups.io, and you can join that. There's over 1,000 members, as you can see, and it's a very active message board. We're going to do the demonstration, and now the URL is http://sdr.n6na.org, and then :8074. The station is, I have it in my home in Citrus Heights. I have two antennas on it. One antenna is for HF. It's a 40-meter full-wave horizontal loop antenna. It's 140 feet of wire in a square, and it's up 20 feet above the ground. And I use that from 0.5 megahertz, which is in the AM broadcast band, all the way up to 54 megahertz. And then for VHF, from 88 up to 910 megahertz, I have VHF, UHF bow ties up on the roof with a amplifier to make it a bit more sensitive. The SDR Play receives up to 10 megahertz at a time. It doesn't receive the entire spectrum, the 2 gigahertz altogether. So what you do is you, on the receiver, you click on this little arrow here, and it brings this selection here where you can select among the different amateur radio bands from 80 meters all the way down to 33 centimeters. And there's also some general coverage segments from 0.5 megahertz up to 910 megahertz. Question from Dave. Oh yeah, this is going to be, this slideshow is going to be on our website. So if you missed it, and it's also going to be on the recording on the YouTube. Okay. And actually, if you go to our web page and you click on the announcement about this talk, it'll bring you directly to another page that's going to give you all this information as well. Etiquette. Okay, this is important. The OpenWebRX can accommodate a lot of users at one time, but the SDR Play only tunes one band at a time. So if someone else is there using this and you jump in and you join them on that band, if you switch the band, you're going to be switching what the other person is listening to. So we try not to do that. It's one of the shortcomings of this particular setup. So we try to limit that. Right now, I don't have any time limit set on there, but you can go into settings and set a lot of time limit so that if somebody's on no more than like 10, 15 minutes or 30 minutes, that's completely customizable as well. So I'm going to do the demonstration. See if another question.
You know somebody else is using it. You know, some show the client list who's listening to it.
No, this doesn't have that particular feature. Just got to be careful about, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try to do a live demonstration. Let's see how this works. Yeah, this is a page on our website now. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see WebSDR. You could click that and go here to WebSDR. And this is the link that'll go straight to the receiver. So let's see if we do that. It should bring up the receiver now and see how that works. There it goes. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, we're gonna bring up 20 meters. That's 20 meters, FT8. That's FT8 on 20 meters. Go to switch over to another model. I just want to see you see any decoding. FT8 is a there you can see all of these decodes right now. All of these are different people that are sending these signals. It's a weak signal mode supposedly for people with like compromised antennas that allow them to communicate over long distances with low power. And it's a digital mode where you send your call sign and your I believe you send your grid square. That's right. And then it's all the rage right now for those who are not familiar with it. The grid square is a locator. It's a different grid square for every point on the globe. So let's go ahead and try another band like 40 meters. Okay, this is 40 meters. And we can go in and look at some of let's go to the voice here. Gonna have to switch over to lower sideband. And we're gonna have to zoom in here. Yeah, this is on the loop. That's a net that's on 7214 right now. If you want to take a look at 2 meters, we can go up to 2 meters. Okay, it's 2 meters. And I think there's probably going to be some nets starting here in just a moment. It's almost 8 o'clock. What you see here, this is just noise. Some of these are just birdies and noise. These are not actual transmitting signals. I don't see that there's any net starting right this moment on that band. If we go to, we can go to general coverage. This is the AM broadcast band. AM broadcast band, that's KSTE. At 650. This is WWV. It's on 10 megahertz. And that's on 5 megahertz. I'm sorry it's not very loud, but I can hear it through the computer just fine here. And we listen to FM broadcast. Yeah, this is my antenna at home. This is KXJZ, that's NPR station on 90 point. Uh, 2.5, it's still light out, so I don't know if you'll. Yeah, at 2.5 may not be coming through yet. That's 5. I'm sorry, that's 5 megahertz. Let me get back on that. There. Yeah, it's on 5 megahertz. If I tried 2.5, there's nothing yet. See, it's just barely coming through there. CHU on 3 megahertz is coming through a little. There's a question. Okay, the way you know if somebody's on the band is you look down in the down here in the left-hand corner. It says clients 2. If it's clients 1, that means you're the only one that's on there. If you see clients 2, that means somebody else is logged on. So somebody is watching us as well, and they're watching me jump around in the bands as I'm doing that. But as long as I stay on this one band, they can tune anywhere they want and listen to any of those signals coming through on that band. And it doesn't interact with me at all.
Question, Carol?
Was there a question?
Yeah, there is. Carol, this is Bob, K6GCN. The station identifiers at the top, do those come up automatically, that kind of metadata, or is that something that you put in yourself?
That's something I put in myself, but if you want to personalize something that you're hearing on there for yourself, you can, that you're listening to, for example, you're listening to whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is. That looks like that's some kind of a broadcast station. Say I want to bookmark that. You click on this little ribbon here, and you can say, I want to save this for something, you know. Okay, station there, and it's bookmarked here. But this is now personal, and it's marked in my own browser.
Okay.
Nobody else can see that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So yeah, I'm leaving this SDR on for anybody who's interested in looking at it. You can all log on with that URL. You could do it on your browser, on your smartphone, or your PC at home. And just to consider that, if you see somebody else is logged in and you see like 2 clients when you log on, that means somebody else is there already and you don't really want to be changing the band on them. If it's only yourself, you're glad to go happy to go anywhere you want on the band. So it's fun. I think it's really fun. So I have an SDR play at home with this little Raspberry Pi, and it's only drawing like 5 watts, and it's using my antenna for something useful when I'm not there. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it. Any questions? Okay, let's pass this microphone.
So I'm not sure if it's Wilson, N6EMF. Not sure if you covered this, but how does the public get to your WebSDR consistently? Does it have like a static IP address that, or do you have to have a special kind of internet connection, or is there a web server that handles that for you?
Okay, I'm going to get on camera here a moment. Yeah, what I do is I go into my router, I do port forwarding so that anything that's coming into that particular port, 8074 is the one, will go directly to my Raspberry Pi when it hits me in the LAN. Now, the way I set up the website is I have access to the subdomains for n6na.org, and I set up a subdomain sdr.n6na.org, and it's pointing directly to my my wide area network IP address, and that's how it directs it into my Raspberry Pi. And that my IP address really hasn't changed. I have Comcast. And for some reason, although I don't have a static IP address, it really hasn't changed.
That's great.
For years. So
Thank you.
It's pretty stable.
Thank you.
If you had I think you had another question there was Don. Yes.
You answered my question.
Already answered the question. Okay, thanks.